Hi guys, it's Belle here and I'm coming off the final few finished days in my October daily journal. I know it's a bit late, I know we're now into November, but if any of you have been watching my other videos, you'll know we've had some family things going on, including two funerals. So I just got a little bit behind, but if you're like me and you love Halloween and spooky all year round, I'm sure you don't mind that it is actually November. So here we go. So I've been taking part in the October Daily 2022 challenge created by Pink Oddbird and Release the Crafting. If you still put in the hashtag OctDay2022, you will be able to see all the wonderful posts that have been created this year, both here on YouTube and on Instagram. And so let's get started. If you remember on day 21, I'd rushed back into the house after encountering some crazed creature in the basement of the secret chamber of the mausoleum. And as I'd come into the house, a door had opened from under the stairs and a hand was pointing at me. And then that hand, well, it started to beckon me and then it started pointing behind me. So we are now on day 22. And the prompt is, the ominous hand lingers in the air, pointing until you realise it's pointing behind you. What's there? So here's what I said. I turn and look at the thing the hand is pointing at behind me. There in the window of the front door is a face staring straight at me. It looks exactly like the face of the creature in the room of the mausoleum. Malevolent green and red eyes glare straight towards me. I take 1 second to check that front door is locked before turning towards the door in the stairs. So you can see here I've used some vellum because I wanted it to act kind of like the window in the door. I've used the Tim Holtz Clip It words, then suddenly troubled eyes looked. I've used some black card and then embossed using my crackle stamp, and I don't know if you can see, but this embossing powder has like reds and golds, and it's just really beautiful. I've used the plants because they're all the way through, and then I used this printout. I believe it was from the Gothic kit by Artie Mays, and I used some watercolor pencils to add the reds and the greens, but also using the water on the inked paper. These swirls should be this kind of light color, and by using a bit of red and water, I kind of lifted up the ink and gave it this gorgeous kind of distressed look. So I really like that. And there's my tag. This is from a Release the Crafting kit. I've just gilded one of those leaves and topped it. Pop that in there. Oh, and my prompts on the back. Pop that in there. There's my number down there. So we go over to day 23. There's the number up there. And I created this embossed in like a silver pearl skeleton. I have no idea what awaits me through that door, but I'm willing to risk it to be as far from the creature that's glaring through the window as possible. Slamming the door and the stairs behind me, I rush down them and find yet another room. This one is definitely a laboratory of some kind. The tables are covered in equipment. The walls are crammed full of shelves that have some of those strange bottles that I saw in the mausoleum. And all these anatomy charts hang on the walls. Books lie everywhere. And slowly I start to calm down and walk around, picking up different bits and pieces as I do, when suddenly I spot a large book that says diary on the front of it. So the prompt for this day was, you throw caution to the wind, run through the door, down the stairs. What did your relative keep down there? So I got this image of like this laboratory, Victorian-esque laboratory off the internet, just printed that out for my journal. Used some handwritten paper behind, which I've then used water to smudge some of the writing because it was real ink, and I love that kind of look, you know, when you're working and you're smudging things. Have used some Tim Holtz different bits and bobs, including another book. Used some of the bottles that I'd made for the page earlier. Have this stamped image of a two-headed skeleton, and then the clip it here says Spirit Merchant. And then we go on to, oh, and I've splattered everything because You know, I love splattering. And we go on to day 24. And the prompt for day 24 was, you notice a rocking chair that is covered with a billowing sheet. Without a breeze, a billowing sheet without a breeze. You lift the sheet, what comes out? So this is my little card, and here's my story. As I start to flick through the diary I picked up, I hear a strange creaking. There in the corner seems to be a rocking chair covered in a dust sheet. It may just be my imagination, but does that rocking chair seem to be moving? And the sheet? Gathering all my remaining courage, I slowly start to lift the sheet, when suddenly something flies out straight at me. I scream and turn to run, before realizing it's that bloody raven again. Now it just sits perched on yet another one of those strange statues that I seem to be seeing everywhere. Dun, dun, done. So this is the page. So here's my raven that I got in some Happy Mail. Again, because I sort of wanted to tie the two pages together because it's all happening in the same room, I used some more of this letter that I'd used over here, and you can really see the kind of water damage that I've done to it and that on there now with splattering. There's some more of these butterflies / moths. They're butterflies, I know, but you know, it's my story. It's what I had. Again, some of the anatomy to kind of pick up the anatomy posters that I'd seen around the room. There's even a raven in this sheet here. This is actually another Release the Crafting one from a kit. And the clip I've used here says a bit frightened. And then again, I've just used another image that I found online of this marble statue. I Mod Podged it and inked it a little bit and just added some trim. And this says, a bit frightened, ashamed of her undignified outburst, because, you know, I've screamed and it's just a raven. I'm obviously on edge. So that is day 24. And then we move on to day 25. I actually created this page on camera. This was my second prompt to create for you guys of the challenge. So I will link that video down below where you can see me actually create this page. So the prompt for this day, here's my little tag, which again you see me create on camera. The prompt for this day is, an old gramophone starts playing music. Then a line of dancing skeletons burst through from the closet door. What are they dancing to? So here we go, guys. Here's my little dancing skeleton. Boop, 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 boop. That's not the song they're dancing to. That's just me. From nowhere, a gramophone starts to play. Dance macabre. This place is beyond crazy. Then a group of skeletons leap from the closet and start to dance around me. Faster and faster they dance, bones creaking and clacking. The music begins to swell to a crescendo. They continue to spin faster and faster and faster. And then we go on to day 26. Here's my little card. Until suddenly the music stops and all the skeletons drop, each one falling into a pile of bones that then begin to move. And I realise they're forming words. As I watched, transfixed and terrified, around me, spelled out in the fallen bones, is the word leave. And all of the events of the day finally catch up with me, and I faint. So again, as I said, I created this one on camera, so I'm not going to go through the details too much. You can see the skeleton actually moves because I put it up on a little paper spring. And the words here say, dearly beloved, we are gathered together so giddy. There's a little gramophone. Good enough. And then over here, so again, I just used some scraps of digital papers that I had. I have I believe it's a Tim Holtz die cut with these bones and little skeletons. So I just cut all those out, inked them around, stuck them down here so they say leave, and added some extras. I then used, I then used some crackle paste here that you can just see underneath in the top and the bottom. I then used some green inks. I think it was like an India ink kind of thing that you would use. I love the weird splodgy effect that's given. I then used some Tim Holtz distress inks and bits and bobs, did some stitching, added some washi. Mod Podge this because my texture paste is not sticking. So I then, covered it in the Mod Podge and some leaves. And then I just used this little skeleton digital photo that may be from a Pink Oddbird kit. Not sure. It may actually be from a Gypsy Rose papery kit. But either way, because of the skeletons, I just thought it went. And then added some Tim Holtz fabric tape up here. Prompt down there. So that is days 25 and 26. I really like how this page came out. And this looked great on the other side, but I had to cover it up. So day 27. The prompt for day 27 was, it's right here on the back. Exhausted from the thrills and chills of the day, you crawl upstairs for a rest. Lights out, what's in the room with you? So you can see I've used this bed digital that's definitely from a Release the Crafting kit to show the bed. And then again, just use some of this red because I believe on one of the other pages where we were in the bedroom, there was some of this red paper. So I wanted to put that back on there. And I've got stitching in corners, used another Tim Holtz. Here we've got more moths and butterflies. And if you actually look, let me bring this up to the camera. I've put a book page underneath, which is something I've done throughout. This one has the word death showing. And then down here, there is the word, if you just move this, that says flee. So, that's underneath. And then we've got these little pieces here. So let's get on with the story. Coming to, I look around me to discover there's no messenger bones, no skeletons in the closet, and no creepy rocking chair. Just a dusty old laboratory. It begins to dawn on me that I haven't eaten all day, so putting everything down to exhaustion and dehydration, I make my way upstairs to the bedroom, taking the diary with me. Once I finally crawl into bed, I start to hear a strange fluttering. And looking around, I see some of those creepy moths that have been everywhere, flying all around the room. So that is day 27. And here we have day 28. Let me get the little thing out. The prompt for day 28 is on this little piece here. And it says, terrified, you cover your head with blankets and find yourself asleep. In your dream, there is a message. What message is given to you? So here we go. The moths are creepy, but at least it's no scary face or dancing skeletons. Covering myself in the blanket, and I drift into a restless sleep. I dream, a dream filled with all I have seen. And there among it all is the lady in the photo. She's working in a secret lab, experiment after experiment, failing. And then there is a creature laughing maniacally. Success at last! The creature is running, hiding. Something is after it. Something wants to destroy it. I can't breathe and I wake up suddenly. Nothing. I take a few deep breaths, calm down, and fall into the sleep again. So again, because this is a dream, you can see the images through, but I wanted to give it that weird, translucent, hazy feel. And the message I get given in the dream is beware hubris. And then if we lift this, I've used these digitals that I had, which may be from J. Lilo, I'm not sure. And they all say like experiments and unknown and extinct and failure. And like this says experiments. So they worked really well. And I made it into like a hidden pocket, which this flips into. And the eagle-eyed among you may spy that I've included on this page lots and lots of bits from throughout the story so far. So when we went into the garden, when we first got there and we saw the lovely like statue, there was the moon and stars on that statue. If I quickly flip straight to it here at the beginning. So you see the moon and stars there. Skulls, because there were skulls in the mausoleum, and also we had the dancing skeletons. There's that raven that keeps following me all over the place. pumpkin from the mausoleum, the bones that spelt out the message, the little scientific flasks and things, the urn again from the mausoleum and places like that, all the little scientific labels, the eye, both because I've used an eye on several different pages and for the eyes that were looking through the door, the sweeties that were left outside. I'm trying to find everything. The plants, the salts, because they have been throughout the whole story. And there is a little hand that is pointing down there. I really loved putting this page together. It was so much fun to flick back through the actual book and look at everything. And on this page I forgot to say that I used the words "the light flickered, the dead hour, the night lost in inky darkness," and on here I've just got the words "state of mental wretchedness, good from evil," and it's kind of all linked in to my story. You're probably guessing where I'm going with this one by now, but you know, so beware humorous. And we go on to day 29. I'm going to be honest, this page was completely inspired by the amazing video for day 29 that I believe it's Shayna from SB Artistry created. So thank you so much, Shayna. I absolutely loved what you created, so I created my own version of it. So I hope you don't mind. So day 29, the prompt, here's my little thing with the prompt, is amazingly, you wake up feeling rested and refreshed. You go into the bathroom to wash your face. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? So here we go, guys. For the rest of the night, I sleep in a deep, dreamless state and wake up surprisingly refreshed. Stepping into the bathroom to get ready for the day ahead, I briefly look into the old cracked mirror before washing my face. When I look up again, I notice that the mirror begins to turn red, as if flames are coming up from within. And then that creature that keeps haunting me appears again, seeming to crawl its way towards me. Suddenly, the image starts to shift until it's my own features that become distorted within the red flames, looking straight back at me. So I actually Shayna used silver card for both hers. I actually used red mirrored card, so it gives you this kind of glow behind it. And I printed out on vellum the image of the creature here that I came across in this secret room. So I printed it out on vellum. This is a die cut that I've used several layers of, and used a little brad so it can move, and obviously used my crackle paste all over the mirror, both sides. I just really love the eeriness, and gilded it, used this gorgeous digital with this sort of with this chandelier behind, because I wanted to pick up the red of the bedroom and the chandelier, some spider's webs, and then had this stripy, which I loved, paper, which I then really inked to make grungy. Used a little rub on, and it says, "Look in your mirror, held in suspense, fatally invisible, a strange thing happened. Leave me alone." Okay, so that was that page. So again, thank you so much for the inspiration. Please go over and check out her video if you did not see the process of her making it. It was so good, and I just really enjoyed it. So we are on to day 30. So let me get my prompt out. And the prompt for day 30, oh gosh, it's written inside, is: after seeing this, you decide it's time to leave. What parting words do you have for the house as you flee towards the front door? So, as you can see, I made a little front door. It does actually, if I grab my nails underneath these little things, I can actually pull it open, supposedly, which is why I didn't glue them down. I've used a Tim Holtz background that I've then inked all on, and I've used some of the Burning Ember mica, which I've used throughout, as well as some splatters at everything, some rub-ons. I actually used one of the keyhole stickers from one of the Tim Holtz kits and cut out this this little keyhole, which was a bit of a nightmare to cut out, but there you go. And then inside, the door opens up and I've got all the different papers, music papers, washi, scientific papers that, again, I've used throughout the whole of this journal, and I collaged onto those. Prompts down there. This is a Release the Crafting Principle. Made a little pocket. There's a rub on. It says The Parting Guest Farewell. There's my number and there's the key. And I wanted to just add the pumpkin in here, because as you can see, it just adds a pop of colour and it reminds me of the pumpkins in the mausoleum. And then there's another little journaling card. So there we go. Let's start. Watching as my distorted face seems to shift back into the creatures, I decide I've had enough of this place. They can keep my inheritance. I refuse to stay here another second in this house. Grabbing my bag, I rush towards the front door, and it's a miracle I don't fall in my haste to leave. As I pull open the front door, I fling the key behind me, saying, "Here, keep your house. I don't want it." And then I rush down the path to my car. So that's the message I say. Here, keep it. I don't want it. Keep your key. Keep your house. I'm done, guys. So yeah, I just really liked creating that door and the dimension and just having some fun. So we are on to the final day. I will pre-warn you, this final page is a bit chaotic, but it's perfect for what I wanted. Da-da-da-da! It's a double page spread. Everything going on, guys. So this is day 31, and the prompt is, you dive into your car and slam the keys into the ignition. As you're driving away, what do you see in your rear view mirror? So I did almost make a rear view mirror, but I kind of wanted to just make a whole kind of page of yumminess. So you can see basically, well, I'll tell you the end of the story, then I'll explain the page. As I drive away, I take a final look in the mirror, and what I see makes me stop. The windows of the house are shattering as plants shoot out of them and start to cover every surface. The garden itself seems to be alive and growing, moving, becoming enormous and impenetrable. And there in the very centre of it all, I glimpse the creature that has been stalking me, and around her are all the marble statues. Now I realise those statues are definitely moving. They grab at the creature and seem to be pulling her down. I hear the creature give one last anguished scream, and then everything becomes hidden behind the trees. Da-da-da-da! So, here we go. Used some digitals I have. Also used some of the dyed parchment paper that I'd used throughout the journal as well. There's the number 31. And then I die cut an absolute ton of leaves and plants, the same ones that I've been using throughout the journal. Again, I want that cohesive feel. I've cut them in all shades of greens and blacks. I've used another one of the Tim Holtz flowers that I've used throughout the journal. There's some writing on here as well, book page. This is a printable, I believe, from Amy Joy, maybe. It's from one of her kits anyway, but I thought the house was perfect. It looked a little bit like the house in the first image, but it looked like, you know, I wanted it with the window shattered and everything, so it worked perfectly. Splattered everything again, went a bit heavy-handed. There's another one of those moths with a skull on it. There's one of the marble statues and another one, or is it? You'll have to wait for the final bit for that. Anyway, and I've used the Tim Holtz clippets to say, a beautiful garden crept into shadowy relief. In these very woods, something dreadfully wicked, lost in the inky darkness, an unfortunate ending. She could not repress a shiver at the memory of it. Haunted for life. The end. And then this journaling card is actually one of my own photographs that I have taken and edited. And if you can see, that's actually a door, because it's, you know, an old building that had all plants on it. And this photo was one of the things that inspired one of the some of the things in this story, i.e. the plants around the house. I've just added another plant and some more bits and bobs on there. So if you could not tell by now, The story I was inspired by was the story of Jekyll and Hyde, but I took a slightly different turn. And there is going to be an epilogue to this story, guys, so stay watching. A lot of you also requested that I do a full uninterrupted story with a silent flip through. And by silent flip through, I mean I'm going to be telling the story, but I won't be discussing the pages. So that will be coming on Friday. So keep an eye out for that, because there is going to be a little epilogue. So the story is not completely finished, guys. I mean, it is a complete story, but I wanted to add a little epilogue, really just to tie everything up, because I feel like there's some loose threads and I'm not always a fan of those in life or in my stories. So yes, keep an eye out for Friday, where you will get the whole uninterrupted story and the epilogue to round it all off. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. I have really tried to give clues to the fact that I was doing Jekyll and Hyde inspired. It wasn't just inspired by Jekyll and Hyde, there's other things in there, but the idea of transformation. So things such as the salts. I've used this particular piece of ephemera all throughout this journal. The reason being, if you have ever read Jekyll and Hyde, one of the things that is near the end is that when Dr. Jekyll can no longer control his transformation into Hyde, he begins to try and recreate the potion that he used. And he sends his servants out looking for salts, because he believes that he either got an impure batch, so he's looking to see if anyone's still got any of that remaining batch left, or the salts were completely pure. But he mentions salts a lot. That's what he sends his servants out looking for. So obviously the scientific books, a link to Jekyll and Hyde. The Victorian gothic exterior, a link to the kind of period. She's obviously got a scientific book on there. I'm trying to think what else. The eye, if you read Jekyll and Hyde, a lot of the descriptions of Hyde talk about like his crazed eyes. So I wanted the idea of the eye, both me looking and the eyes looking through the door at you, like this crazed creature. I also used butterflies and moths, because butterflies and moths are symbols of both death and transformation. And the raven, or the crow, is also a messenger of death between the spirit worlds. So I wanted that idea of change, of the death of one thing, the creation of another. The I am lost on the door is what would be Jekyll, although it's not Jekyll in mine. It's my ancestor, Hollow, saying that she's lost because, you know, she's lost within the transformation. She can't transform back to herself. The statues are something different slightly. They're my edition, inspired by something else. This page for the meats, again, if you have read Jekyll and Hyde, the whole reason Dr. Jekyll wants to create Hyde is because he has all these desires and wants, and he wants to lead this decadent life. But a good person can't, you know, give in to desires and wants and everything. He basically wants the best of both worlds. But Hyde is someone who really lives to that full, like, overindulgent decadence and, you know, does lots of bad things. But one of the things Hyde has as this insatiable appetite. So I wanted this page to have all sorts of foods and meats on there. There's the eye. There's all the scientific bits and bobs. And curious was used because obviously Dr. Jekyll is curious. There's the bath salts again throughout. I'm trying to think what else I've used. I particularly said the sweet smell of violets because very common in the Victorian era. They ate violet and rose flavoured sweets. We've got the mausoleum, obviously. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, back to the skulls and everything. Obviously, we've got the scientific lab, guys, because, you know, it's Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. And in here again, I think I've used the salts somewhere. There's the crazed image. So the creature we meet downstairs has the resemblance of a person, but is crazed and kind of hunched over and like almost insane looking, because that is how Hyde is described in the book. I've used book spine throughout to top and on some of the pages because it is inspired. On this page, there's a big clue because there's a two-headed skeleton for the two different sides of the person, you know, the doctor and then the creature. Again, we've got butterflies and moths and ravens. It was hard to work in the skeletons and the bones to my story because I kind of didn't want it to be overtly like crazy spooky, you know, skeletons and witches and all that kind of thing. It didn't kind of go with the Victorian gothic story I was going for. So I added them in there, but I wanted it to seem like she was almost dreaming it. It probably happened, guys, but I wanted my character to feel like she was dreaming it. Again, we have all the moths, and I've been using all these like physician, surgeon and druggist, chemist, and, you know, all that kind of thing, because my ancestor is and Dr. Jekyll was a surgeon. And again, if you read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Jekyll and Hyde, Dr. Jekyll actually, the house he has backs onto an old medical, what's it called? Medical surgery room, like, you know, where students would come and they'd watch them perform surgeries down below, like at a university. And so that's attached to his house, but it's through the surgery laboratory door that we often see Hyde go in. And it takes a while for us to realize that the two houses are attached. So Hyde goes in where the medical room is, and Dr. Jekyll always goes in the front of the house on the main street. And so I wanted it to say surgeon because surgery would have been performed, and that's where we last that's where they break in and discover Hyde. Obviously, I wanted everything kind of on here. I wanted all the experiments. Again, a nod to Dr. Jekyll. Oh, and I put a brain down here because obviously in the book, Dr. Jekyll is trying to like take the parts of the brain that and change them so that you can take the two sides of yourself and make two creatures. The mirror. Again, I chose a red mirror because when they finally break into the surgery to free Jekyll or find his murdered body and instead find Hyde there, one of the things they find is a mirror, and this mirror was actually requested earlier in the book. And this mirror, when the lawyer looks into it, this mirror reflects like the candlelight, but it does it in such a way that it makes the mirror look red and flicker, and it distorts the facial imagery. And then in the letter, Jekyll talks about how he became, you know, obsessed with the idea of he was going to hell because of what Hyde had done, and that this mirror was a reflection of his future. So I added that, obviously. And yeah, then the end. So my story was inspired by the wonderful Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Jekyll and Hyde. And I've really tried to leave clues for you all throughout for anyone who's read that book. I have been inspired by a few other things, which I will explain more. Oh no, I'll explain them now. I was going to explain them more in the talk through, but I basically wanted to go with the kind of idea. There's that, I believe it's a Greek story, Galata, where a man creates a marble statue and wills the gods to make this statue come to life. It's a very... it's one of those tales where you just go, seriously, why? But the idea of the marble statues coming to life really inspired me, especially as a lot of the prompts talked about gardens. And I wanted the idea that Jekyll and Hyde, or in this case, my ancestor, my relative, is playing around with nature. They're trying to create nature. They're trying to change human nature. they're trying to basically disturb the balance. You know, we've all got to keep a balance in ourselves. We can't have the best of both worlds. You know, you have to make a choice to make good decisions or not. And you can't have the best of both. You can't like split yourself in two and have one side that is blameless and then let the other side do whatever, you know, which is the whole theme. There's this whole morality theme in Jekyll and Hyde. So I went with that in my story, but I went more down the nature theme. So to me, Jekyll and Hyde is messing with like the natural order of things. In nature, there is a balance between you know, death and life and good and bad. You know, there's beautiful plants that can eat bugs, and there's wonderful creatures that if they sting you, you can die, and things like, you know, there's that balance, but it's the essence. So I basically wanted Mother Nature to be taking her own back. Basically, my relative has been messing with things that they shouldn't be and acting in you know, choosing science and trying to control nature rather than understanding that nature cannot be controlled, that it's all around us. And, you know, taking essences of plants and using them in her experiments for this, you know, creation and creature. And basically Mother Nature has taken revenge. Mother Nature is angry that her plants have been used this way, that the balance needs to be restored. So Mother Nature has imbued the plants with their own energy. She's sent living energy into the statues that are all around the garden, and these things are basically trying to regain control, make sure the creature doesn't escape, that these experiments are hidden from anyone else, that balance is restored, and that all is as it should be. So this creature that was coming out of the wall, it wasn't coming for me, it was coming out because it was chasing the creature, because the creature's trying to hide and run around and escape from these statues. That the essence of Mother Nature is basically brought to life so that she can make sure everything is put right. I hope that makes sense. I hope it wasn't too waffly. I really hope you enjoyed this. I absolutely loved this year's October Daily, which you can probably guess. I absolutely loved the story aspect to it. And see the statue. I loved adding the little clues and getting excited when I put them on the page and things. I love just getting creative and getting my Victorian Gothic on. And yeah, I've really liked how this has come together. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, hang around for Friday when you will get the full uninterrupted story, including the little epilogue that I'm adding, and you'll get to see the pages again, but I won't explain what I've done to the pages. So let me know what you think down below, guys. Did you guess it was Jekyll and Hyde? Did anything give it away that I was inspired by? Did you see any of the clues that I pointed out in there? Even the little bowler hat is very on this skeleton on this page is very Jekyll and Hyde-esque. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me this year for this, and thank you so much to Priscilla and Pink Oddbird for creating such a wonderful October Daily this year. And it has been wonderful to be taking part in this with so many other wonderfully talented people and finding so many new creators that I didn't know. So anyway, guys, until next time, or until Friday, thank you so much for joining me. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe, and I hope you are still having lots of spooky crafting fun. Bye for now, guys.